I was 32 years old when I realized I'd been in love with the wrong generation my entire adult life. The revelation came not in some grand, cinematic moment, but across a wobbly table at Romano's Italian bistro, when the woman I'd spent 15 years trying not to think about appeared like a ghost from my conscience and asked me the one question I'd never had the courage to ask myself. My hands were sweating against the cheap paper menu when I saw her. Not my blind date, God, not her, but Eleanor Richardson, my best friend Marcus's mom, standing 3 tables away with the kind of shocked expression that could crack concrete. Her green eyes, the ones I'd memorized during 1,000 Sunday dinners at their house, locked onto mine with an intensity that made my throat close. She was wearing a navy dress that somehow made her look both elegant and approachable, her auburn hair touched with silver in a way that seemed intentional, like she'd negotiated with time itself and come out ahead. For a moment, I thought she might turn around and leave. Part of me hoped she would. The other part, the part I'd been suffocating for years, wanted her to walk straight over. She walked straight over. "Daniel Morrison," she said, her voice carrying that particular blend of amusement and disappointment that only mothers and teachers can perfect. "On a blind date?" My actual blind date, Jennifer from HR at my company, looked between us with growing confusion. "Do you two know each other?" "Daniel has been Marcus's best friend since they were 14, Eleanor said, still looking at me with those penetrating eyes. "I've known him half his life. Fed him more meals than I can count. Listened to him talk about his dreams, his fears, his terrible taste in women." "Hey," I protested weakly. "Case in point," Eleanor said, gesturing at the table with a slight smile. Then, to Jennifer, "I'm sorry to interrupt your evening, dear, but would you mind if I borrowed Daniel for just a moment? It's actually quite urgent." Jennifer, bless her, looked relieved. Our conversation had been dying slowly for 20 minutes, killed by my inability to focus on anything she was saying. "Take your time," she said, already pulling out her phone. Eleanor's hand wrapped around my elbow, firm and warm, and suddenly I was being guided through the restaurant like a child being removed from a scene. We ended up on the back patio, away from the dinner crowd, surrounded by string lights and the smell of jasmine from the neighboring garden. "What are you doing?" she asked, and there was something in her voice I'd never heard before. Not anger. Something sadder, deeper. Disappointment, maybe, but aimed inward rather than at me. "I'm on a blind date," I said stupidly. "My sister set it up. She thinks I'm wasting your life on women who don't matter." Eleanor interrupted. "Women who don't see you. Who don't know that you take your coffee black because you think it makes you seem tougher than you are, even though you'd prefer it with cream. Who don't know you're afraid of thunderstorms because of that tornado warning when you were 9. Who don't know you read poetry but pretend you don't because you think it's not masculine enough." Each observation hit like a physical thing. I'd never realized she'd noticed these details, filed them away, kept them. "How do you?" "Because I pay attention, Daniel. Because I've been paying attention for 5 years. Maybe longer. Since that night you came to dinner after your father's funeral and tried so hard to be brave, and I saw through it completely. 5 years. The same amount of time I'd been telling myself that what I felt for Eleanor Richardson was just misplaced gratitude, just confusion, just anything other than what it actually was. "Why haven't you ever tried asking me out?" The question came out of her like something she'd been holding back for too long, like words that had been building pressure behind her teeth. I opened my mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. "Because you're Marcus's mom. Because you're you, and I'm just." "Just what?" "Just the man who helped me fix my kitchen sink last month and stayed for 4 hours afterward talking about nothing and everything. Just the man who brings me books he thinks I'll like and remembers how I take my tea. Just the man who looks at me like I'm not invisible, like I didn't stop existing the day my husband died." The pain in her voice cracked something open in my chest. Marcus's father had died 7 years ago, and I'd watched Eleanor transform from a wife into a widow into something she defined herself as, Marcus's mom. The woman who hosted gatherings. The woman who volunteered. The woman who existed in relation to everyone else but never for herself. "You're not invisible," I said quietly. "You've never been invisible to me." "Then why, Daniel?" Her eyes were shining now, threatening tears she seemed determined not to shed. "Why have you paraded a dozen different women through your life, women you didn't even like, women who didn't know you, while I've been right there? Do you know how many times I've cooked dinner for you and whatever new girlfriend you brought along? Do you know how many times I've smiled and made small talk while dying inside? I didn't know you felt. Of course you didn't know. Because you never asked. Because you assumed. Because I'm 51 years old, and you probably think that makes me ancient. Because I'm your best friend's mother, and that made me untouchable. Because society has taught us that men can age like fine wine, but women just age. That's not why, I said, my voice rougher than I intended. God, Eleanor, that's not why at all. Then why? I'd spent years avoiding this conversation, this moment, this truth. But standing there on that patio with the string lights casting gold across her face and her eyes demanding honesty, I couldn't run anymore. Because I was terrified, I said. Because you're the first person I think about when I wake up and the last person I think about before I sleep. Because every woman I've dated has been an attempt to not feel what I feel for you. Because you matter so much that the thought of ruining it, of losing you from my life entirely, of making things awkward with Marcus, of having you reject me and then having to live in a world where I couldn't even be your friend anymore, that scared me more than anything else. The tears she'd been holding back finally escaped, tracking mascara down her cheeks. "You idiot," she whispered. "You absolute idiot." "I know. Marcus knows." The words hung between us like a bridge or a cliff, I couldn't tell which. "What?" "He's known for 2 years. He asked me about it one night, after you'd left one of our dinners early because I'd mentioned I had a date. He asked me if I had feelings for you, and I couldn't lie to him. He's my son. And do you know what he said?" I shook my head, unable to speak. "He said, 'Mom, you've spent 7 years being Dad's widow and my mother. When are you going to just be Eleanor again? When are you going to let yourself be happy?' He told me he'd noticed the way you looked at me when you thought no one was watching. He told me he'd wondered why you never made a move, and he realized it was because you were trying to be respectful. He said, and I quote, 'If Daniel makes you happy, then stop waiting for permission and go get him.'" I felt like the ground had shifted beneath me, like everything I'd built my fear on had been made of paper. He knew. He gave me his blessing, Daniel. 2 years ago. I just never had the courage to do anything about it. Because I was scared too. Scared you didn't really feel what I hoped you felt. Scared I was just a convenient mother figure. Scared you'd laugh or be horrified or, she stopped, her voice breaking. And then tonight, I came here with my sister to celebrate her promotion, and I saw you with that girl who clearly doesn't know you at all, and I couldn't watch you waste another evening, another month, another year settling for less than what you deserve. What I deserve? Someone who knows you. Someone who sees you. Someone who loves you not despite your flaws but because of them. The air between us felt charged, electric, full of possibility and terror in equal measure. Inside the restaurant, I could see Jennifer laughing at something on her phone, completely unaware that my entire life was rearranging itself on this patio. "I love you," I said, and the words came out easier than anything I'd ever said before. "I've loved you for years. I've loved you in ways I didn't have words for. I've loved you through every bad relationship I sabotaged because they weren't you. I've loved you on Sunday mornings when I'd find excuses to come over early, hoping for 20 minutes alone with you before Marcus woke up. I've loved you selfishly and from a distance, and I'm sorry I never had the courage to tell you." Eleanor stepped closer, close enough that I could smell her perfume, something subtle and expensive that reminded me of every important moment we'd ever shared. Ask me, she said.